Alright, hello everybody. This is a video to kind of demonstrate, give a quick look on the HEXOR. This is the final revision that's currently in development, so this is what's going to be available to purchase. Now HEXOR is a noise oscillator with 4 different outputs, but they're all interrelated. This does not track volt per octave, so don't expect to create specific melodies with it, but it's really about noise and sounds and generating all kinds of weird harmonics and stuff. So let me just give you a quick brief walkthrough of how the outputs sound and what you could do with it and what kind of things you can have happen with it. So let's turn it on. So if you look here closely, I don't know if you can see that. So we have 4 different outputs. We have limbo, lust, greed, and anger. Now these are all different stages of the same oscillators internally that are working. So limbo and lust, each one of those corresponds to 2 oscillators here and 2 oscillators here. So the 2 oscillators here correspond to limbo, and the 2 oscillators here correspond to lust. Greed is a combination of these 2 with these 2 together, so it's based on all 4s. There are no controls to directly affect what greed does, but controlling any of the 4 oscillators also affects the sound of greed, as well as obviously the corresponding output of them. And anger is a combination of all 5 oscillators together. All 4 plus the 5th one here. So it gets noisier and less musical the further you go away. So let's kind of take a look. So let's start with limbo. Now limbo and lust, like I said, 2 oscillators here, 2 oscillators here, these are identical. So limbo and lust can both sound pretty much the same. So let's start with the first one here. Let's turn this down. So I hope you can hear this well. Unfortunately, I'm having to record this with my phone mic because I don't have any direct input or anything like that. I don't have a lot of video gear. But yeah, okay, so let's see. So this is the first one. So a quick sweep of each oscillator and kind of a combination of both, and let's see how it sounds. Now something you probably not are going to be picking up is that it really sounds like 2 different waves on top of each other, and you could really hit really sweet bassy notes in the middle with a very high pitched on top of it. There are these really sweet spot points. Personally, I feel like everything is usable. But there are these really sweet spot points where you have either a very concentration of bass frequencies or high frequencies, or they're both in harmonic together, kind of like this, stuff like that. Now I said lust is the same thing, so let's just do a quick look. The first regular sweep, like we're used to it. Okay, so let's put all these back down. Now let's go look at greed. Now greed, like I said, is a combination of all 4. So it's a lot more noisier, as you can tell. So it almost has a formant or vocal characteristic to it. Okay, now last one is anger. Now anger is all four plus the fifth oscillator. Just comparing to different levels. So without changing anything, these are the four outputs that you would get from just like this random position of the knob. And you see it gets more and more intense and more noisy the higher up you go. So now what are these 5 jacks? Now probably somebody would assume these are CV inputs for all 5 knobs. Now this is a very basic configuration of oscillators. So it's based on the schmitt trigger oscillators that a lot of people are used to, where you just have one resistor and one capacitor to create an oscillator using an schmitt inverter. And obviously this does not have any CV control, especially not any precise CV control. So what I've done is that I've added a Vactrol parallel to the pot that controls the feedback to be able to CV control that pot. And that way you can get kind of moving shapes and stuff like that. You have a little bit more control. Now, again, like I said, this does not track anywhere near 1 volt per octave. So it's very experimental, but that was the whole point. So the one cool thing is that we could have, let's say, an LFO that's going into one of the CV inputs. So let's take a look at Limbo here. I'm just setting a so now I have an LFO going to this knob. Change the rate a bit. So you kind of get the idea of that. Another cool thing to do is to self-patch. So for example, let's say we want to listen to anger, and this is actually a cool way to get an even more white noisy kind of sound because it's still quite harmonic. So what we could do is self-patch. So maybe take the Limbo output, put it into the 5th stage pot here, and let's see what that listens. So you see it's a lot more white noisy. So you can get a really white noisy kind of sound with it, but still with that digital noise kind of style to it. So that's kind of the basic functionality. Now, another cool thing I realized is that it's actually really nice to pass through a regular filter and envelope kind of setup where you're making a basic subtractive sound out of it. So I have ripples here. So we're gonna put this into it. So let's take Limbo, for example. Take it on the 4-pole output. 4-pole, is it? Yeah. 24 dB 4-pole, yep. And then put a trigger on a gate that I have outside of the frame, and that generating an envelope going into the ripples, and there you go. So this is the basic sound that we were getting earlier, right? Depending on your envelope and your filter, you can really get it to sound quite nice, actually. Almost resembling a physical modeling kind of thing. Now, what if we take another one, let's say greed, put into another filter, and pass another envelope to it. Sorry, just give me a second here. Yeah, I don't know why my other envelope is not working. Here's another idea. Sorry about that. Let's take it to a Vactrol LPG, actually. So let's do that. So I have a Vactrol here. So this is the trigger. Now this was the output in. And then take the output here. Put that into channel 2. Let's take a third one, do the same thing. kind of jam with just one sound source and create this very syncopated system. And let's say I do this. So now I have Pamela's new workout out of frame right here. Sending gates or triggers to the 2 of the vectorals and 1 to the contour, controlling the filter here. And I also have actually one LFO going into this one. This group here, and then the other one is a random CV pitch, just constant random going into this one here, and that way you get that dynamic movement. Let's see what we could do if we patch the last output back onto itself. So this only is going to affect the last stage, obviously, because this knob only affects the last stage. So you see it's not affecting the sound of the other ones, but if I do this, it would. Now I have Greed patched back onto the Limbo stage. With this little module. I'm very happy with it. I feel that the sound coming out of it is really interesting. It's fun to experiment with. It doesn't track volt per octave, but it's still really fun to play with. And yeah, hope you enjoy and see you next time.